Hey there, I'm back to share another week in my project life for 2022. So for this week, I have a few pieces of ephemera in here, and I've printed out my photos, which I need to crop. And you can see I don't have a ton of 4x6 photos this week. I have a lot of 3x4s. That's perfectly fine. I have my notes on my sticky note as usual. And then I'm going to be working with the whole story kit from Ali Edwards. So I have already used this kit to create 2 layouts, and I plan to use it to create a third layout. And I already sort of have an idea for that project, or at least a third, possibly more. In addition to that, I'm going to use it on this spread. So I don't have, this had some like felt pieces. I've already used those up. I do still have all the chipboard. I have a lot of the cards. I still have the word phrase stickers. I haven't touched those. I have these half circle pieces that are kind of large for project life, but I'm not sure. And then I have these transparent circles. These I think I'm going to save for another project. And then I have the whole word, which I think I'm going to save. So I'm gonna put that aside and kind of go through what I have here. I'm gonna put the embellishments aside too, because that'll come later. And look through the kit. And what I really do when I'm working with a kit like this is I'm going to kind of go through all of the cards and see what could potentially work for this week. So I'm starting with the 4x6 cards. So this one is a very general writing it down story card. So that might work for this week. This quote card I really like as a potential title card. This one I don't think I want to use for this week. I'm going to put it aside. This one is more for like a deeper story, so I'm going to put that aside. This one I don't think that I want to use that this week. I don't really have like feeling journaling to do. The sentiment doesn't work for the week. This one could, but I don't think that that's really where I'm going. This one I think might be good. And this one I think might be good for this week. So I'm going to just kind of lay those out as options. Then I'm going to go through the 3x4 cards. So this is just a nice, fun filler sentiment, so I might use that. This one I think would be really good for journaling. This one doesn't make sense for this week. This one definitely makes sense. This one's a good base card. So whenever there's a 3x4 card that has this type of format where there's like a pattern and then base at the bottom, I really like these to include a square photo. And I have printed out one square photo here. When I do that, I print these 2.5 by 2.5 inches, and then it will fit nicely on here, and I can journal a little bit about the story here. So I'm definitely going to pair those together, and I'll put that. I'm just gonna kind of switch these right now just because this has white at the bottom and this is dark. I like those next to each other. This I think is a great card for a project life, so I'm gonna kind of put that in there. This one is a good one for project life also. I don't think that that sentiment works for this week. These two, I saw some people use these in project life really well. I really liked it, but I feel like my pockets are kind of full, so I'm just going to put that down. And then these sentiments I don't feel work for this week, so I'm just going to put that aside. Let's see, one piece of these I was thinking might work in 4x6 pockets. So I'm thinking like that one would be good, and this one might be good maybe for the ephemera. Again, that sentiment doesn't work. These ones are maybes, just they're nice patterns. And then the remember this, I think that would be fun for some stories too. So I clearly have too many cards to pull from here, but that is a great starting point. I'm gonna go ahead and put you on fast forward, crop out my photos, and get putting this spread together.
Okay, as usual, my first step is cropping out all of my photos. As I'm cutting them out, I'm not really thinking that much about where they're going to go on the spread. I'm just kind of laying things out. And you can see here, I have way too many cards and photos to fill all of these pockets, and I'm going to have to narrow it down, but I'm going to wait until I have everything laid out on the spread to really figure out how I want things to look. So now I've got a general idea of everything I want to include, and I'm just going through and pulling out the cards that I'm not going to use, because I do want to make sure I include all of the photos that I printed. And I definitely had pulled too many cards from the kit. When I'm rearranging stuff on the page, I'm thinking both about the stories I want to tell and what goes together. the chronological order of things from left to right and just how they look on the page. I'm not as concerned about chronologically laying things out across the spread as I am about making sure that they look good and that cards that go together as part of the same story are next to each other. So you can see that I decided to use some of those half circles. I'm going to use them to embellish a few cards and to create my own journaling card. Now I'm going through and starting to fill in my pockets. Because the theme of this week was whole, and I had this photo of a healthy quinoa bowl I made, I thought it'd be fun to talk about eating whole foods. And I liked how the stamp hole was kind of on a curve and it fit perfectly on my bowl there. So I thought that was a really fun, lucky fit. So the kit came with these green word phrase strips, but I tend to like word phrase strips clustered in groups of 3. So I went into my stash and pulled out both a black and a white set because they would go nicely with the colors very easily. And I'm clustering a few sets on a couple of my photos just to embellish them. You can see I'm just kind of working across my spread left to right, one card at a time, skipping over the journaling cards at first, and really just working on embellishing my photos and laying everything out and figuring out how I want it to look. That card right there is about the Oscars and how we are watching the Oscar movies and tracking that. And then here's a photo of me at work. I decided to just embellish it with a stamp and one of the word phrase strips from the kit. You can see I'm just kind of going through one card at a time and trying to figure out how I want things to look. And I'm not totally set yet on how all of these cards are going to look, but as I put things together, that gives me a better picture of how I want the overall spread to look. So I wanted to put this half circle here on the photo of my daughter and her boyfriend, but it was a little too big, so I just cropped it down so that it wouldn't cover up her face at all. And then I pulled over some cardstock from my stash. I thought I didn't really want to use white cardstock with this kit. I had tried that green one, but decided to go with this gray here. And I put this half circle on the side and cut off the edges there because then I could turn this into a journaling card. And I journaled about a longer story of one of the days this week when we went out to lunch and to movies and ran a few errands. And you can see there's those 2 photos there that were from that day of my movie ticket and the menu where we went to eat. So I just kind of paired this with that. And then I went back and underlined all my words. I don't do that all the time, but sometimes I like to underline them on a larger journaling card like that. It feels more grounded. I also had quite a bit of ephemera that I collected this week, and so I wanted to put that on a card, and I decided to go with this green paper from my stash to use as a base for that ephemera. So my idea is I'm going to just adhere the ephemera down and then put this, I think it says pieces of my day, half circle on there. So I have a tag from some socks I got in a sock swap from Crystal Agnate. I have my movie ticket, and then I have a sticker from the restaurant that we went to that is like a crate place from Vermont that moved into our town very recently. So I adhered everything down and just cropped it out, and then I'm putting this pieces of my day half circle here and just making sure it's not covering up any of the details that I want to show from that ephemera and trimming it down so that it will fit in the pocket. Every time that I fill in a new pocket, I just kind of look at the overall spread and make sure that things look balanced and I like how it's going. I pulled out a chipboard to add to that one photo, and now I'm ready to do my journaling. So I pull off all my journaling cards and do them one at a time. And this way I'm able to make sure that I get all of the stories that I want to included, and I don't end up with blank journaling cards with nothing else left to write. This pieces of my day card I used more for like a general overview of what my days look like at this point in time. I thought that was a good prompt because it's something that I don't normally think to journal about. And then this card with 4 little spots allowed me to tell 4 little stories from this week rather than doing the bullet point list that I typically do on my Project Life spreads. Next, I have this pie chart, which I thought would be a good way to stamp which took a while, but to stamp out just some general pieces of my life right now and the things that I'm loving or doing, working on, and are just filling up my time. So what I did was I used this stamp set that was designed by Laura Wanzik for Ellie Edwards, and I stamped one word on each of the little pie pieces. But then after I put it back on the spread, I felt like I wanted to add a few more details to them with a pen. So I just went back and added in a few additional details on each of the little pie chart pieces. And then I put that back into my spread. Now I'm just moving everything out of the way and looking at the overall spread. I decided it needed a little more texture, so I took all of these half circle pieces over to my sewing machine and added a little bit of stitching. I had gray thread already in my sewing machine, so that worked perfectly for the spread. And when I do stitch them down, I always pull the threads through the back and tape them down on the back of the card so that you don't see any of the ends on the front, and I don't have to worry about stitching forward and backwards, because I think on paper that makes it more likely to tear and look a little bit messier. And that's how you would do it, like on fabric. So now I feel like my spread is completed. I'm just going to go through and slip everything in the pockets, trim them down as needed, and really feel like I have everything together. I do a final check and make sure that I like the way everything's laid out. But generally, I feel like this spread came together really well, and I really loved this whole story kit. So I hope that you really enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments, or if there's anything that you would like to see in future videos. So thank you so much for being here.